Hey, my name is Penn Shelton,
Hi, I'm Emana Johnson.
and this is our project on conflict resolution for the group dynamics course with Dana Regusters for week 7 final project. As you'll see, we are 2 members of our group and not 3 due to a class member leaving halfway through the course. But we made do and came up with the presentation anyway.
So we chose for our role play, we chose to do family dynamic between a husband and wife who had disagreement on whether or not their son should go to a private or public high school.
We decided to use the 2 techniques of nonviolent communication as well as common ground, with the therapist intervening with them. And we will explore this and demonstrate it in the role play. And then during the discussion section, we'll do a breakdown of both techniques and what they are and how they work. And then a little analysis of what actually happened within the role play. And without further ado, hello, this is my and Emana's project role play section. As you see, Professor Dana is here with us. She's helping us out because we lost one of our group members halfway through the class and have had to continue developing our project, the 2 of us. And so Professor Dana is standing in as one of the cast members in our role play to help us work it out. So thank you, Dana, for standing in.
Sure.
We are doing a role play of a husband and wife with a therapist having a conflict over sending their son to public school or private school. And the therapist is going to attempt to use nonviolent communication in the first scene. And then in the second scene, they'll be using common ground technique to bring them together and try to resolve the argument that's taking place. So we will perform the role play and then break it down and analyze it in the discussion session. And here we go with scene 1, nonviolent communication. Good morning. Thanks for scheduling an appointment. What can I help you 2 with today?
Okay, so he is always making family decisions without me.
I don't need to ask permission before doing what's best for us and our son.
It's not about asking permission. It's about being fair and including me. If you love me, you would respect me.
You should respect my decision making.
Okay, you 2. Okay, hold on. Take a deep breath. Let's take a step back. If I can interject, why don't you 2 each state what the problem is specifically without responding to each other? That way I can get a better idea of what's going on here. What exactly are you 2 arguing about?
Okay, so he enrolled our son into a private high school without talking to me. That is a big decision.
Okay, Jim, now you state your side.
I just want to make sure that our son has the best future and the best prospects. So I put him into a better school. I don't understand why she's mad about that.
Well, it seems here that you both have needs to express and want to have your partner hear you, and there's a disconnect between you here, trying to state your point. Let me try a conflict resolution technique with you. This is called nonviolent communication. The premise is that every person is speaking from a place of just trying to get their own needs met. If we can speak honestly and with empathy, then we can do better in trying to understand each other. The way to change from our normal communication to this more effective communication is through good observation, expressing your feelings, expressing your needs without making it a demand, and then making a request that does not have any coercion or guilt tripping attached to it. Are you guys willing to give this a try in order to get to a better place with each other? I'm here to help you through it.
Yeah, I'll try it.
Okay, if you think it'll help. Do you want to go first?
So before you begin, you want to make an objective, non-judgmental statement about something specific that Jim has done that you're having an issue with. Try to not give any personal interpretation, just direct observations. Then you can share your feelings about it without blaming him for it.
Okay, I'll try it. Jim, when you make family decisions without me, I feel frustrated and offended.
That's a good start, Jane. But when you say the word offended, it sounds a little like you're blaming him. Frustration is a perfectly fine way to describe your reaction. It's a very normal reaction to this type of situation. Can you tell him what your needs are now and make a request from him?
Okay. Jim, when you make family decisions without me, I feel frustrated because I need to feel like I have a say in our family and I need to feel like your partner. Would you be willing to talk to me before making decisions about our family and our family finances?
Jane, great job. Jim, are you willing to consider doing that for Jane?
Yes, I suppose talking things through is not a problem. I guess I just thought I was doing the right thing by taking charge and making the hard decisions and trying to spare you all the worry.
Can you communicate that to Jane in the form of expressing your needs?
I'll try. I just have a need to protect our family and to try to build a future for us all. I have a need to consider the future and make decisions that will ensure our son's ability to be able to take care of himself when we're no longer able to.
Can you share your feelings about that with Jane? Tell her how you feel when these needs aren't being met.
I guess I feel scared. When I feel scared, I deal with it by making a decision and working hard to see it through so I can be confident about my decision.
I understand. I feel the same way. If we can talk about it and you share your feelings and needs with me, I can try to help you through it. That's what a partnership is all about. You don't have to do it alone.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I guess I was afraid that you would disagree with my plan and then we would miss the deadline for the private school application.
I might disagree with the plan, but I have a right to share my agree on.
Okay, guys, when we're fighting so hard to get our own needs met, we often create situations where people become resentful or feel alone or hurt. You didn't talk to her to try to avoid the conflict, but see how that avoidance actually created a worse issue than if she had initially just disagreed with your idea. I hope you both had an opportunity to see how you can communicate differently now. Please try to follow this communication method for the next week, and we'll review in our next session how things have been different. Remember not to blame each other for your feelings. No one can really make you feel anything. But we can help each other to feel better by listening and allowing both partners to feel heard, even when there's a disagreement. And if you request things gently of each other, rather than make demands or coerce, there will be a greater chance of each person wanting to do things to make the other person happy. Thanks. See you both next week. And this is scene 2, using common ground. Good morning. Thank you for scheduling an appointment. What can I help you two with today?
Well, he is always making decisions for our family without me.
I don't need to ask permission before doing what's best for us and our son.
It's not about asking permission. It's about being fair and including me. If you love me, you should respect me.
You should respect my decision making.
Okay, hold your horses. If I may interject, why don't you each state what the problem is specifically so that I can better understand the situation? What exactly are you arguing about?
Well, he enrolled our son into a private school without talking to me first. That was a big decision.
Okay, and how about you, Jim?
I just want to make sure that our son has the best future and the best prospects. So I put him in a better school. I don't understand why she's mad about that.
Okay, well, it seems to me that you're both very invested in your viewpoint to the point of taking it personally and getting resentful at each other. So I think if we go on this way, we're not very likely to make any progress. If you don't mind, I'd like to use a de-escalation technique called common ground. Through this exercise, you'll both get the chance to say your part, and make sure the other person really heard you right. Are you willing to let me guide you through this process?
Sure, I'll try anything at this point.
You mean she has to listen to what I have to say without interrupting me? Sign me up.
Okay, here's how it works. First, one person will say everything they feel about the situation without the other person interrupting. When they have said everything they want to say, the other partner then reflects it back to them to make sure they heard them right. If their reflection wasn't satisfactory in any way, the first person then gets the chance to reiterate the missing piece. We'll do this until everything is covered and both parties agree that they understand the other person's point of view, then switch sides and the other person gets a chance to share their viewpoint. Jane, why don't you go ahead and start for us?
Okay. Jim, I feel that public school is a better option for Johnny because the teachers have to be certified. They offer special education classes if he would need that, and we don't have to pay tuition. I'm worried about our family finances, and now is not a good time for extra expenses. I also want him to be able to play on sports teams and socialize normally. I would like him to develop good people skills.
Okay, Jim, now reflect back everything you heard Jane say. You can use your own words.
Okay. Jane, so what I'm hearing you say is that you would like Johnny to attend public schools because the teachers are certified. If he needed special education class, he would be able to have that option. And it would also be less expensive because he wouldn't have to pay tuition. Is that right?
Yes, but you forgot the part about his social life.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're worried he won't make any friends or be able to learn any social skills or have the same extracurricular opportunities as other children.
Okay, yes, that's right.
Okay, good job, you guys. You had a good job saying your part and reiterating the missing piece. Now, Jim, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Well, I feel that private school is the best option for Johnny because he'll have smaller classes. He'll be able to get more help and the attention that he needs in the classroom, and he'll have better opportunities to participate and to focus in class. They have a flexible curriculum and it's also more prestigious, and he'll have a better shot at getting into a good college. I think investing in his future is worth the little burden that we're experiencing right now.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is you would like Johnny to attend private school because he'll be able to focus better. He can get more help from the teacher, and they have a flexible curriculum. You think that it's worth spending the money to ensure a good future.
Yes, exactly.
All right, great job, you two. You really expressed yourselves well. Now, the last part is now that you've both gotten to share your thoughts, do you see any goals in common or themes that are shared between you two and what you think about the situation?
We both care about his future and care about what's best for him.
I agree. We both care a lot about Johnny and his future and doing what's best for him.
Great. Now that you see that your goals are the same, perhaps you can take a step back from taking your disagreement so personally and then begin planning together on how to meet your common goals. This is about working together to do what's best, not about being right or insulting each other for having different ideas. Even if you disagree with the other person's plan or their ideas, take this opportunity to value where they're coming from and their efforts to do the best thing for your son. You may find that you won't argue or disagree nearly as much as when you're open to sharing these ideas and really taking the time to hear each other out. Let's revisit this next week and see how things are once you've had a chance to practice more listening and reflecting at home. Okay, so here we are for the discussion and breakdown of our role play. I want to just quickly say thanks again to Dana for being a part of our role play and standing in for the part of the husband for our group dynamic. So we're going to just go ahead and break down. First, we're going to break down nonviolent communication, what the method is, and then discuss how it played out in our role play. And then we'll move to common ground and discuss the method and then how it played out in our role play. So nonviolent communication from Marshall Rosenberg's chapter is a language of life that helps transform old patterns of defensiveness and aggressiveness into compassion and empathy and improve the quality of all our relationships. Essentially, what nonviolent communication is it's learning how to be in touch with our feelings and communicate them without blaming anyone else for our feelings or holding other people accountable for our reactions to things. And instead of making demands, making requests. It's a way of getting people to communicate with each other out of compassion and understanding rather than just trying to get their needs met and self-centeredness. It's pretty effective, although it's difficult for some people to get the hang of it and start learning how to actually practice it effectively. It definitely takes practice. In our role play, we simplified it down to make it work for the video and for our presentation, but in reality, it would take much longer than a few minutes for people to get the hang of it, especially if they're in the middle of a big argument. So, yeah, and we're going to break down the method first.
Nonviolent communication is composed of 4 components and 2 parts. The first one is observation. Observation without evaluation consists of noticing concrete things and actions around us. We learn to distinguish between judgment and what we sense in the present moment and to simply observe what is there. The second one is feeling. When we notice things around us, we inevitably experience varying emotions and physical sensations in each particular moment. Here, distinguishing feelings from thoughts is an essential step to the nonviolent communication process.
A lot of times in regular communication, people who are not used to therapeutic language will often find themselves confusing thoughts and feelings and confusing their own reactions with other people's intentions. Nonviolent communication helps to clarify where the information is really coming from. The other 2 parts, as we saw here, the first piece is observation of the awareness, feeling, understanding what's going on with oneself. The next piece is needs. All individuals have needs and values that sustain and enrich their lives. Everybody has needs, from basic security, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, basic physiological needs, to emotional security, to quality of relationships. Everybody has needs, and everyone is communicating their needs to each other. When these needs are met, we experience comfort, happiness, and peace. When they're not, we experience discomfort, frustration, anxiety, anger. Understanding that we, as well as others, have needs is probably the most important part of nonviolent communication. The last part is to request rather than demand. To make clear and present requests is crucial to nonviolent communication's mission. We learn to request concrete actions that can be carried out in the present moment. Then we begin to find ways to cooperatively and creatively ensure everyone's needs are met. One important piece of the request part is that we can't ask other people to feel a certain way or think a certain way, but we can ask them to take concrete, demonstrable actions. So that's where a lot of people struggle with picking this up when they first are introduced to nonviolent communication.
The 2 parts include empathy and honesty. Empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Receiving from the heart creates a means to connect with others and share experiences in a truly life-enriching way. Empathy goes beyond compassion, allowing us to put ourselves into another's shoes, to sense the same feelings and understand the same needs. In essence, being open and available to what is alive in others. It also gives us the means to remain present to and aware of our own needs and the needs of others, even in extreme situations that are often difficult to handle. Second one is honesty. Giving from the heart has its root in honesty. Honesty begins with truly understanding ourselves and our own needs, and being in tune with what is alive in us in the present moment. When we learn to give ourselves empathy, we can start to break down the barriers to communication that keep us from connecting with others.
So the main thing about these two principles or parts of nonviolent communication is about getting outside our own viewpoint of what we want, what we're trying to get, and help us connect to other people, because the relationship is the means of getting the needs met rather than just trying to acquire resources, or validation can be considered a resource in this case, whatever the case may be. And honesty is about not being stuck in fear so that you can't truly communicate what's going on with yourself. It's about true connection, person to person. There's a conversational model that we follow in nonviolent communication. Some people who are familiar just with psychology and counseling would be familiar with when you, I feel, rather than saying you made me feel this or get angry. So from these four components in two parts, Marshall Rosenberg created this model for enriching communication that's effective in solving conflict with anyone from family members to your friends, coworkers, anything. The basic outline of the model is, when I see that blank, when this happens, when I observe this thing, I feel, my feelings are, my reaction is this, because I have a need for something which is not met. And then you make the request. Would you be willing to blank? Right. So this was demonstrated in the role play during the time when the wife asked the husband to include her in discussions before financial planning and decisions were made for the family. Here it says, keep in mind, this is just a model. Using this form and this language is not the most important aspect of nonviolent communication. In fact, as you practice and learn more, you'll notice that all four of these components can be present in the absence of this structured sentence. This sentence is formed for beginners to learn how to express themselves within the principles of nonviolent communication, rather than reverting back to old patterns of blaming people for their feelings and making demands. So, Emana, do you want to talk about what happened in the role play a little?
We, in our role play, we were able to have the wife express her feelings, and then she was able to be corrected by the facilitator when she said, I feel offended and I feel frustrated and offended. The facilitator was able to correct her by saying that offended is kind of like blaming. So she was able to try again and try the nonviolent communication without saying she was offended, but she was still able to get her feelings across to her husband without blaming him.
Yeah, and the husband was able to hear her and understand where she was coming from, because she wasn't accusing him of being disrespectful or unkind or mean. She was stating her needs and telling him her feelings, and he was able to connect to her as a person rather than feeling threatened or attacked by the way she was responding to the decision he made without consulting her. So we see at the beginning of this skit, and you could see the beginning of the skit was the same in the beginning of both intervention scenes. For nonviolent communication, you see they came into the therapist's office, they're already upset at each other, and they kind of start going in on each other before they've even told the therapist what the problem is. The therapist gets them to clarify, and then once that's done, he introduces the nonviolent communication model and theories, and basically asks permission, or gets the two people to co-sign involvement and participation in the in the conflict resolution that they came to him to do. So what happens is he introduces the concepts. First, the wife, Jane, gets a chance to try to express herself. As Emana noted, we wrote in a mistake in which would be realistic, that somebody would need time and redirection to adjust to the model. Most people wouldn't be able to just jump in and have awareness of their feelings and not blame somebody who, when they've been in a relationship, presumably for some long period of time, they have a child, and they're making decisions about financial status of the family. You can assume from context that this couple has had issues in the past, probably for some period of time, and that what's coming up right now is a reflection of a deeper underlying disconnect between the two of them and issues or needs that have gone on or gone unmet for some period of time. You want to talk about the husband's response?
So in the role play, the husband, well, at first he was like upset. He felt like he should be able to make decisions if he felt it was the best for their family without consulting with his wife. And then after they were able to use the nonviolent communication conflict resolution method, then he was able to say that he will be willing to communicate with her before making decisions.
Right. So I think in the real world, it would probably take someone longer to get to that place of opening up and becoming willing upon hearing the person's needs. In real life, the process takes more time to break down internal bias that has been built up through conflicts over time. However, for the sake of demonstration of the principle here, we had it happen kind of quickly. So you see that the husband develops insight, breaks down, taking it personally, and is able to express himself, although slowly. He's able to tell how he has fear. He makes decisions without consulting her, not out of disrespect, but out of fear that she'll disagree with him, and then he won't feel secure in his decision making for the family. So really, we showed through this role play that they were able to come to a resolution of understanding each other through nonviolent communication. Anything to add on NVC?
No.
Okay, so we're going to move to analyzing common ground. So common ground is a different sort of technique than nonviolent communication. It's a little more direct, and the goal is a little more general, if that makes sense. So common ground is an exercise used to manage conflict through point-by-point communication and reflection from opposing sides in order to reach mutual understanding if there's a disagreement of principles or approach to the same situation. Through careful and respectfully facilitated dialogue, two opposing and disagreeing sides can understand each other's point of view without continuing to engage in a debate or conflictual conversation that continues to lead nowhere. The goal of common ground isn't necessarily to get a firm and concrete resolution, but rather to de-escalate the emotional energy of both sides, and get them out of their own viewpoint and into understanding someone else, similar to how nonviolent communication emphasizes empathy. Common ground uses the same kind of principle to get people who are in disagreement to understand each other better. Um, Ultimately, all sides come together to see where their goals are in common or the same, and then understand that maybe they disagree with the approach, but not necessarily what the other side is really trying to do about whatever the issue may be.
The facilitator will set the ground rules of respectful language and not interrupting the other side during their time to talk. Each person will get their own time where they will not be interrupted, so they can get all of their thoughts out before the other side gets to respond. The facilitator will indicate when it is time for each side to speak and only interrupt if there is a breaking of the ground rules. One side will be designated to speak first. On their turn, they will explain their position to the members of the other side until they have said all they wish to say. The other side, side B, will reflect back in their own words what they heard the other person say, or what they think they heard the other person say. Once their reflection is complete, side A will be able to state whether they felt that side B heard them correctly and covered everything that they said or felt that was important, and given the opportunity to repeat themselves if they feel something was left out. The process is repeated until side A feels that side B has an adequate understanding of their viewpoint. So if there was something that side A said that side B did not repeat, or that side A thinks side B did not understand that well, then they would repeat it over and over again until side A feels that it was understood completely. Side B is given the opportunity to share their viewpoint and have the process unfold in the same way with the same rules reversed. Side A providing reflection of their views. Once both sides have stated their viewpoints and feel the other side has an adequate understanding of their viewpoints, the facilitator will then summarize each of the goals and give both sides opportunity to discuss common goals and emphasize the commonalities of each group's motives, helping them come closer together and emptying out the conflict of the group dynamic.
So, as you'll see, you go back and look at how the therapist introduces the concept with nonviolent communication versus common ground. You'll see in the common ground, in the nonviolent communication, he explains what nonviolent communication is. He explains the principles and the underlying issues that he sees, noticing that each other's needs aren't getting met. Whereas in common ground, the facilitator or therapist points out how invested each side is in their own point of view, to the point of getting very emotionally invested, causing resentment, a lot of anger here, as we kind of wrote in a little humorously, but we wrote it in there just to demonstrate that people do get very impassioned about their opinion and protecting themselves and their point of view. So he explains that this is a de-escalation technique, and that they'll get a chance both to speak and be heard and do the same for the other. Do you want to talk a little?
Just wanted to say about in our common ground role play, we were able to see in the beginning when the wife, she expressed her thoughts and her feelings about why she felt that their son should attend public school. When the husband repeated back to her what he heard her say, he left out a part about the son's social life. So then the facilitator was able to step in and say, did he hear you correctly? Is this what, are these your feelings? And the wife was able to say, well, you left out this part. And the husband was able to repeat back the whole statement that all of mom's feelings, and this time he added in the part that he forgot. So then mom was able to be relieved that, yes, okay, now you understand me.
Right. So in nonviolent communication, the wife made a mistake, and in common ground, the husband made a mistake, because we support gender equality. So, so basically what happened was then the husband got the opportunity to say all the reasons why he felt private school was a good idea and helpful for their future. He got to really emphasize not just his reasons for sending him to school, but that there were a lot of feelings backing up his viewpoint, and he got to share about them. And the wife did a great job of reflecting it back. So at the end, the facilitator points out to them that he didn't actually point out to them, but he gave them the opportunity to reflect with each other about what commonalities were there for their point of view, and really remind them that they weren't there to be right and to get their way, but they were both there to support their son and help the family and come together and really support each other. So through the common ground technique, he was able to settle the differences. It doesn't always happen so quickly, and it doesn't always happen to the point where they really understand each other and come together at the end. A lot of times, the best you can hope for is just that each side starts to slowly develop empathy for the other side and just starts to get a little better understanding of where they're coming from, even if they still vehemently disagree. Their level of emotional intensity behind what they're putting into the debate or the conversation will dramatically reduce, which will decrease the conflict that's occurring. and hopefully both sides will be able to develop better insight and understanding to what's happening between them, more than seeing the other side as an enemy that needs to be beaten or they need to be right and prove that they're right. It's not about proving being right. It's about just understanding each other better. And that naturally will de-escalate a situation if done correctly and successfully. All right, any last thoughts?
Nope.
All right, well, we enjoyed putting on this role play. We hope that you all enjoyed it as well, and my cheesy jokes. So just to reiterate, there's a lot of great conflict resolution techniques out there. We've read about a lot of them this semester. I really like nonviolent communication. That one really speaks to me. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people one-on-one and in groups, and I think it's a very effective intervention to bring people together when they're able to actually express themselves and be seen and feel heard, like we looked at early in the semester. That itself is a gratifying experience where people will be able to feel good about themselves in the interaction, even if it doesn't necessarily go the way they were hoping it would go at first. Common ground is also a great technique, bringing people together. These techniques have really various contexts that they can be applied in, whether it be in the classroom, like we saw in Freedom Writers, or inner city with gang-related multi-ethnic conflict, or with families who are having problems at home, disagreements between couples. It can, no matter the context, the principles work really well with people if they're just willing to try to understand each other and de-escalate a situation. Most people are going to approach a conflict trying to get their needs met, and there's a lot of different techniques that you can help people to feel that they have been heard, which in of itself is a huge need that people have to be met. Thank you for watching.